It is a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing probably the original townie, my buddy Samir. The man needs no introduction, but in case there's someone living under a rock in Kathmandu, I'll just say a few things. He's basically Mr. CEREC. Dr. Samir Puri is the director of CAD/CAM at Spear and the founder of CERECdoctors.com, a website dedicated to CEREC online education. The website has become the standard of CEREC training and is the largest online CEREC resource in the world, having trained more CEREC owners than any other individual in the world, the Milky Way, and the universe. Dr. Puri splits his time between his educational duties at Spear, managing the CERECdoctors.com website, organizing the CERECdoctors.com magazine, and treating patients at the Spear faculty practice. Dr. Puri maintains numerous professional relationships and is advisor to many major dental corporations and works with different manufacturers to help develop and test new products. He has served as a beta tester for the CEREC software since 2005 and is deeply involved in helping to test new software versions. Dr. Puri is a graduate of the University of Southern California School of Dentistry.
Right on.
USC, because he could not get accepted into UCLA. The Bruins said we won't have him. And advanced education and general dentistry residency. And I am going to say that as a personal friend, since 2000, you probably have the most amazing wife and two daughters.
Absolutely. I'm a lucky man.
Yeah. And I was very shocked that you were able to convince her to move from Southern Cal, where you went to school, to boring old Phoenix, Arizona. How did you talk her into that?
So I mean, it was a rough time. It was hard to convince her. My wife is very much, she's got a routine, and we've got a large family. We're an Indian family. I've got a very large family in Southern California. My parents are there. My in-laws were there. Our kids growing up had no other babysitters other than their grandparents. But it came to a point where, I was coming back and forth to Scottsdale, which at that time was called the Scottsdale Center for Dentistry. We were teaching our CEREC courses there, and it was like almost every weekend, we were coming here for courses. And it just became to a point where one day Imtiaz, who was the CEO at the time, Imtiaz Manji, he said, listen, we're growing. The CEREC stuff is just growing, and we need you to be here full time, so that you're not doing it part-time. And so kind of hemmed and hawed and went back and forth and talked to the wife and kids, and the kids were kind of on board. They're like, yeah, new adventure. My wife was like, sure, it's for your career. And literally we landed, and it was just really, really difficult for her at first. All of our family was back home. We really had nobody here other than my sister-in-law, who luckily, her and her husband happened to move at the same time. He got a job at one of the hospitals. He's a pulmonary critical care doctor. And it was a good 6 months of, what are we doing? Why are we here? Why did we leave our beautiful home in California?
Chatsworth, right?
Chatsworth. And then, sold my, practice. And it was a huge change. But it was worth it. It was worth it. I love CEREC technology. It's obviously had a huge impact on my practice. I love seeing what it can do for doctors, and love seeing the doctors come through our workshops, and just kind of the light bulb goes off that, oh my God, I finally figured it out. It's great. Not that it's difficult. It's gotten easier and easier, but it's just been a passion of mine. And it was a rough 6 months for the wife, but she absolutely loves it now, and we're settled in Scottsdale. We've been here 5 years now.
Wow.
Amazing. And just shocking how time flies. So it's been a ride.
I got you a house present for your house. I'm sorry it's 5 years late, but it's the cat. And when you leave, you need to take the cat with you.
Perfect for my older daughter who's allergic.
You were one of the first, you had to be one of the first 10 or 20 townies. I mean, I can't even remember. And you have 22,000 posts on Dental Town. You were just, you and I have rode that wave where the whole world's gone from analog telephone wires to digital.
Yeah.
And digital's basically everything's going to go digital.
I mean, it already has, I see a lot of people now, younger docs, that, hey, I want to go lecture and I want to do a study club, and they get on the road, and you've seen this, the road warriors, and, they'll get on the road and, they'll go to a study group and lecture to 20 people or 30 people, and I'll look at them and say, you could write a kick-ass blog on Dental Town, or write a kick-ass article, or go on Facebook or use some sort of social media, write an amazing thing, and you reach 10,000 people from your living room. And yet you want to go out on the road and speak. So, you know, I went through this transformation. I was on the road way too much. I learned from the best.
Oh,
you've been there. You're still, you're the original road warrior, Howard. And I learned from you, and I did a lot of lectures. And it came to a point where the valet. So I would go to Burbank Airport, which is about 20 minutes from my house in Chatsworth. Valet park the car, fly all over, take the first flight possible back. So literally I've gone from LA to Maine for like 8 hours, lectured, and come right back. I mean, that's just what you do. And I've gone to Australia for a 14-hour layover and come back. And people are like, well, don't you want to hang out? No, my family's at home. This is not a vacation for me. This is work. And the day I realized that I'm just on the road way too much, this was a few years ago. I go to the airport, valet park my car, hop in the plane, go. And the valet guy looks at me and says, hey, so how's your brother doing? And I'm like, what? How do you know my brother? My brother at the time, he did a startup in Silicon Valley, and he was living in LA, and he was commuting back and forth from the Bay Area a couple times a week. So you give your valet ticket and the last name, Puri. So he put two and two together. My brother kind of looks like me, has a resemblance. He's like, so how's your brother doing? And I looked at him, I was like, dude, I'm at the airport way too much. And that was when I pretty much, I can't tell you how many lectures I've turned down every year now, just because I don't want to do it. I told my family we would move to Scottsdale, and I would limit my time on the road. And I don't do it. I literally, honorariums and stuff. I just don't do it.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Seriously, I don't mean to be racist, but when I first met you, I think the tallest Indian I'd ever met was like 5'7", 5'8". When I met you, I just thought, I didn't even know they were that tall. And then I'll tell you the second thing that I got blown away when I went lectured at India. When I grew up in Kansas, I was always told that Indians have the healthiest food. They don't eat meat. They're all vegan. They're all just fruits and vegetables. Every Indian dentist's house, within 1 minute of walking in, here's grandma with all these cakes and cookies.
And they get offended if you say no. Oh, no, I'm good. No, what do you mean? You have to. And it's...
Indians eat more sugar than any group of people on the planet.
Well, that's why they have bad health, really. I mean, they're not obese like the problem we have in this country, but you have heart disease and cholesterol. So it's awful because they cook with a lot of oil, and there's a lot of sugar and fats and stuff like that. And healthy cooking just hasn't. It's just, but Indian food is good when it's not healthy, so it's fine.
I think the best Indian food I ever had was when your wife cooked in Chatsworth.
Yeah.
I still remember that. That was amazing. So how, so I got to tell you, the learning curve. I actually had CEREC 1. You started CEREC in 2005.
2003, I got a CEREC machine.
I don't know when I got mine. I got out in 87. But anyway, the the growth of CEREC was dependent on how fast Intel was making these chips, and Moore's law was every 2 years they doubled the amount of chips on the deal. So basically, CEREC was kind of waiting for that 3 decades. I mean, it goes all the way back to France. Waiting for computers to get better, faster, cheaper. So when would you say CEREC went from bleeding edge to leading edge? When was it? Was it blue cam, omnicam? Where did you call it and say, okay, this actually works?
I think certainly omnicam made it easier for users.
And what year was that?
So that was in 2012. I got the CEREC in late 2003, and honestly, for me, I grew up in a family of computer engineers. I'm an Indian. That's what we do, right? I mean, you got a computer problem, we'll fix it. And so, to me, it was a natural. I mean, I took to it. It was, it made sense. But having done education now for a long time, the biggest thing that I've realized is stuff that makes sense to the speaker or the teacher, you take it for granted. And you really become a good teacher when you can take concepts and simplify them for others that just seem natural and simple to you. So for me, CEREC I would say, was mainstream back in the day when I got it, right? It was like, hey, I'm ready to go. However, having said that, the blue cam was great. That came out in 2009. But it still required powder. Omnicam really, I think, made it like, okay, now we're really getting somewhere. And even though the omnicam does a lot. We could do a lot back in 2003. Inlays on these crowns, veneers, all that stuff could be done in 2003. But it's just easier now with the OmniCam. And I would say, really, we've broken the glass ceiling, to steal some political terms, because of the introduction of chairside zirconia. You know how popular Bruxer is, and lots and lots of dentists with their laboratories said, why am I going to pay all this exorbitant money for PFMs in gold, because the cost of gold is through the roof, when I can get a material like Bruxer, which is super strong, and it's not technique sensitive. I can use my same technique.
And tell them what it's made out of.
Zirconia. Bruxer is 100% full contour zirconia. And in March of this year, Sirona introduced an oven that allows a CEREC dentist to sinter chairside zirconia, essentially the same material as Bruxer, in about 12 to 15 minutes. So now, as a dentist, I don't have to say, oh, well, I love CEREC, but I've got to change from cementing stuff to bonding stuff. You can do exactly the same prep. There is no such thing as a CEREC prep anymore. You do the same prep that you're doing with the laboratory, your same reduction, same everything. And you can now mill chairside zirconia. So I would say today, right now, we are seeing people come through our workshops that, I'll ask them, prior to zirconia, would you have ever considered CEREC? 90% say no. I wouldn't have looked at it.
And that's because the Emax fracture, there was...
No, Emax is a fantastic material, but it's different. Emax ideally should be bonded. Okay? So you can cement Emax, but the real strength of Emax is when it's bonded.
And what do you like to bond them with?
Oh, I use a little bit of everything. I mean, we get so many different products to test. Scotch Bond, Universal. And
so it wasn't that Emax was fracturing.
No.
They didn't want to go through the extra steps of bonding.
Yeah.
And so
because prior to that, let's just talk about a CEREC user prior to full contour zirconia. Hey, CEREC is great. Everything's fantastic. Howard, you can use it for your practice. It's great. However, you have to change kind of the way you do things. I know you get zirconia and PFMs, you cement it, but it's not a big deal, but we're asking you to bond. Well, that little change was enough for people to say, you know what? Maybe it's not for me. Now you don't have to change anything. It's exactly the same workflow.
What about the old, some people in Dental Town say Emax was more aesthetically pleasing than Bruxer or zirconia.
It still is, 100%. That's the one downside of full contour zirconia. It's such a dense, strong ceramic that it's not aesthetic. Okay, so the one downside of full contour zirconia is the aesthetics. It's very opaque, and the more opacity you have in a ceramic, the worse the aesthetics. Okay, Emax is a very translucent material, and actually, if I'm doing a central incisor or a couple of teeth in the front, I'm not even going to use Emax probably as my first choice. I might use Empress or Vita Mark II, which are feldspathic porcelains, not the strongest material. If I have a scale, Bruxer full contour zirconia is here, Emax is here, feldspathic is here. But feldspathic is very translucent, very aesthetic. So that would probably be my first choice. Zirconia, very strong, but very opaque. So if I put that in an aesthetic area, it's going to look very opaque. Now, manufacturers are starting to come out with translucent zirconias. Well, what happens to zirconia when you make it translucent? You lose strength. And the translucent zirconias that are out there are about the same strength as Emax. And whereas we've had 10 years of success with Emax clinically, maybe longer, I don't know, 10, 12 years of documented research, Rella Christensen, you know her well, she's in her paper, CRA, they just found that the translucent zirconias are not performing very well out in the field, because to make them translucent, what do? They made them weaker. And so people are pushing their limits, and they're just not performing as well as the full contour
I just turned
opaque zirconia.
54 this week, and I lectured on
You
the
don't
same
look
program.
a day over 53.
I lectured in Pennsylvania on when Gordon was celebrating his 80th birthday.
Wow.
The guy has more energy.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Than anyone I know who's 50. Yeah. I don't know how Gordon and Rella. I mean, they're still crushing.
Yeah. They're...
So what do you say to some people are saying that CAD CAM's going to be replaced by 3D printing?
Eventually. But
is that bleeding edge?
Yeah, but I think that's like saying, all the cars out there are going to be flying soon, eventually. 3D printing is great right now for printing resins and acrylics. But for ceramics, it's not a more efficient process. Like they have 3D printers right now, but whereas I can mill a restoration in 10 to 12 minutes, it takes over an hour to print. So yeah, eventually that'll happen, but I don't think that's any time
I think
soon.
that's how I'm going to make the most money to where I can retire. I'm going to buy a 3D printer that just keeps printing itself and multiplying, and then I'll just sell them. Do you think that'll work?
Sure.
And by the way, when you say cars aren't flying now, every time I've seen you in your car, it's flying. Tell us, what are you even driving now?
What am I driving now? So I have a Tesla Model X. It's the one with it's the SUV, the full electric. And then my wife drives the Tesla Model S, which is the sedan. We haven't been to a gas station, I don't know, in a couple of years.
Yeah, but you used to have one car that I think you were telling me you went 140 or 150. What was that one?
I could do that in my Teslas.
The Tesla will go that fast?
Oh yeah, the Tesla is 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. So it's super fast.
Yeah, I can do 0 to 200 in under 2 seconds if I stand on the bathroom scale.
There you go. Huh? That's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
But you know what?
Beats your car.
No. Actually, that is the most impressive thing, because unlike me, you are a 3-time Ironman finisher.
3-time.
3 times. And I will have to tell you, Howard, you are my idol for that, because as you know, 2 years ago, based on your completing of the Ironman, I started training and I crashed my bike and I had 2 surgeries and shattered my clavicle and put me out of commission for 1.5 years. So I went from training from 1.5 hours to 2 hours a day to nothing for like 1.5 years, put on like 40 pounds. But I have now signed up for the St. George half Ironman. So I'm it's supposedly the hardest half Ironman in the world, and I figured I don't have time to do a full, but I'm gonna give it another shot.
You know, and how I rationalize Ironman is 700 Americans get killed on the bike each year.
Yeah.
But 500,000 die of heart disease.
Yeah. So
when I look in the mirror, I think, okay, what's going to get you? Is it going to be a bike, or is it going to be the heart disease?
Well, I tell you what I did. You got to look into the Wahoo Kicker. It's a trainer you put your bike on, and I have it hooked up to an app where I can virtually download the St. George half Ironman bike course, and it adjusts so I watch TV and ride for an hour indoors. I haven't been outside riding yet.
I'm
gonna do everything on the bike.
So I think the biggest news in CEREC has to be the CEREC. So the old story on CEREC is Siemens was one of the biggest companies in Germany, and they had a CEO that decided they had too much of healthcare and not enough consumables. So they spun off, what was it, Sorona. But the building didn't change. The employees didn't change. It was just everything's the same.
Spin-off.
And that is absolutely the biggest dental company in all of Europe. And they just got married to the biggest dental company in the United States, Dentsply
Sorona.
in York, Pennsylvania. So what does that marriage change anything for the individual dentist? Is that more, I mean, what did you think of that marriage?
You know, it's a marriage that the board felt that they could do to get, to use a business term, synergies, right? Sorona was a equipment manufacturer. Dentsply was a consumable manufacturer. Dentsply made blocks and cements and stuff like that. Sorona made the CEREC and handpiece and chairs, and they didn't really have any overlap in any of the products. And if you look at their product portfolio now, pretty much they serve the dentist in the sense that anything you want to buy for your dental office, they make a product that sells it. So I think it's been good. I have no...
the way I saw it, it seemed like the United States Dentsply was all the old world analog stuff.
Yep.
And the German Sorona was all the digital. And it's kind of like, to me, it looked like Dentsply was wishing it had a digital.
Yep.
And kind of the digital people said, at the end of the day, you're still going to need...
You're still going to need supplies, blocks, and cements, and cotton rolls and stuff.
The other big buzz about what I like the most about Sorona the most is that it seems like I'll give you an analogy to implants. It seems like that all the people I know who try to save money on the implant and buy them online from Russia, Israel, Brazil, they get the implant for half the price, but they don't have a rep in the field, and they just never get it going.
Yeah.
Everybody I know who places one implant a week, which I think if you place 50 implants a year, you're crushing it. 50 a year, they're glued to a rep in the field. And it seems like on the CBCT CAD CAM that when people start buying, mixing and matching and all these things, it all goes together But unless you're a technique GERD,
Yeah.
you just never get it really going.
Yeah,
and they're always like, yeah, it all works. And then you say, okay, do that. And I've been in several dental offices where a dentist and the associate and 2 hygienists and 3 assistants still just little things like a patient wants to copy their take home their CBCT, or you're trying to mill out a guide, and what I like about the German system is it just seems like it's more that the advantage of a closed system is just that it's easier to use, it's user friendly.
Yep.
You don't have to be a rocket science to get it going.
Yep.
Do you agree with that assessment?
I totally agree, and I think this whole open versus closed thing is a little blown out of proportion, because as an end user, what I want is simplicity, right? And I totally agree with you.
And Apple's a closed system.
Apple's a closed system. But at the end of the day, I mean, do I really care about open versus closed? No. What I want is my stuff to work. I want to show up at the office and I want to know that it works. And I think your point about the rep is very important. We do a lot of education over at Spear, and we do a lot of research into implants and who's placing them. The GP population, actually, solo GP like the guy you're talking about, the number of people placing implants is actually going down because of exactly what you said. They'll do a couple, and then they'll realize, man, this is really not that fun. It's just a lot easier for me to prep a crown, and if there's a problem, I go blame the surgeon, and it's not my issue. So that's actually going down. Now, there's certainly people that are like, oh yeah, I love it, this makes sense. So the more they do, the better you are. But the people that try to do 1 a month or 2 a month, they eventually just drop it. The ones that do 1 a week, 2 a week, 5 a week, they're the ones that are growing. But the population of people doing 1 a month or less is a lot more. So the GP population placing implants is declining. Specialists, if you want to get into implants, get good education. But it's not the drilling is not the hard part. It's the treatment planning. And that's where the CEREC system, I think, is really good, because you can actually design your implant crown on the CEREC. You can use the cone beam to position the implant directly under the crown and then mill out a surgical guide. And yeah, you can go through different hoops and use different third-party softwares, but this is just easy. And again, I go back to, as an educator, what I think is easy, the average person may not be easy for them, because they're not doing it every day. So our goal as educators is to teach them what's the simplest, easiest way to get from point A to point B. And that's kind of why we've stuck with the Sirona system, because it's just so simple and easy to use. And you can go outside the system by getting STL files and stuff if you want to. I don't really know that there's a need to for the average person, unless you want to just say, oh, I 3D printed my guide, or I did X, Y, and Z. And you can do that. Is it really the most time efficient? People are going to have to decide for themselves. Well,
it's funny because a lot of dentists are... it doesn't make sense. So in 1900, healthcare was 1% of the economy, and you just had one doctor head to toe. By 2000, it was 14.7% of the economy, and they had 58 specialties. Now it's 2016, it's 17% of the economy, and you have dentists that want to go back to that original guy in 1900, and he's going to do ortho, Invisalign, and sleep apnea, and place implants and bone graft, and so. I mean, do you really think that? I mean, historically, everybody has specialized.
Yeah,
and it seems like when dentists say to me that they want to get into sleep apnea, and I'll say, okay, well that's a massive discipline. So what are you going to give up?
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to start referring out all your endo, your pediatric, and they're like, oh no, I'm going to do it all. Do you think the Superman dentist is?
Listen, there's Superman dentists. There's no doubt about it, and there's Superman dentists that can do it. I think the danger in that is that you see a Superman dentist, and then you try to be a Superman dentist, and you just crush your practice trying to be the Superman dentist. And I think it's something that you have to go with ease. I don't know that it's the best way to practice, certainly a way to practice. One of the things we teach at Spear is interdisciplinary care, working with your specialists, working with your surgeons and your orthodontists and endodontists and all that kind of stuff. There's no right or wrong way. Our philosophy is just have a good team around you to work.
Yeah. These technologies, I mean, there's so many things possible. Like, I think everybody was blown away, like the scanning. You can now make your clear orthodontic retainers.
Yeah.
And now there's now the orthodontists are shocked because now there's companies that are sending you the impression material.
You can do it.
You bite into it,
Yeah.
and they're sending it to Invisalign.
Yeah.
And they're scanning it and sending it back to the consumer. It's like not even going through the orthodontist. I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of disruptive technology.
There's definitely is, and I think CEREC's been a disruptive technology. It's disrupted the lab industry.
Well, when I got out of school, there were 15,000 labs in the United States, and
Yeah.
now there's half that number.
Yeah.
Well, so what do you think? What's your thoughts?
It's going to
on
go
labs
down.
then?
It's going to go down.
It's going to continually.
It's the same analogy. If labs and the Superman dentist, I think it's the same thing. There's going to be some labs and there's going to be some dentists that can do it all. They're going to be really good. They're going to consolidate. They're going to, have a good team. They're going to invest in themselves. They're going to do well. The labs that try to emulate but they don't invest in themselves and they don't get the technology, they're going to suffer. So it's better for them to focus. Be the cast gold guy, be the full contour zirconia guy, be the anterior veneer guy, be the person that you're really known for. Then you can kind of set your own pace. Same with the dentist. If you're going to be the Superman dentist, do it well. Otherwise, it's going to hurt your practice. So if that road doesn't work out for you, find what you love to do and become the best at it, and be known as the veneer guy, be known as the inlay guy, be known as whatever you're the ortho guy, and just do that really well. Specialists seem to do well financially by focusing on one thing. I don't know why GPs feel like that they have to do everything.
And I love the work of Regina Hertzlinger, the medical economist from Harvard University, and her writings. She calls it the focus factor, and she'll go look at insurance data. And the guy who only does hernias has a much higher success rate than like a thoracic surgeon who's doing 5 or 6 different procedures. And the other thing that I thought was the most amazing about her deal, which we know it's true, I hadn't thought about it, is when she studied hernia operations, the shorter the operation, the higher the success rate.
Yeah.
The guy who would go in there and do it in under 5 minutes had like twice the success rate of a guy doing 20. And last month, the Journal of Endodontics published a study where they took huge insurance data, and they showed that at 5 years, endodontists on molars had a 95% success rate, and general dentists had a 90. So it was 1 out of 20 teeth more. But I thought it was interesting because you figured the endodontists were doing just everything right, and the general dentists were probably doing everything average. But at the end of the day, the difference is only 5%.
Yeah.
So the body's doing a lot of the healing.
Doing a lot of things. Well, I think that goes to the point that I think you really, whatever you're going to do, just focus on it. I mean, I think just spend time and learn to do it properly. What I don't like seeing is, I took a weekend course here and a weekend course here and a weekend course here. That I don't know is a service to our patients. I think if you're going to do a discipline, spend a year on it. If you're going to do implants, spend a year on it. Go to different workshops, go to different speakers, learn from different sources. If you're going to do endo, spend a year on it. Just don't dabble in stuff. I think you're going to have a much more success.
Okay, now let's change subjects completely, Samir. Podcasters, I'm 54. I'm a grandpa. I got a 4-year-old granddaughter. Podcasts are all the data on podcasts. They're under 30. Mm-hmm. And everyone who emails me, howard@dentaltown.com, regarding the show, they're either juniors and seniors in dental school or they've been out 5 years. They're all under 30. Mm-hmm. Unlike every other month, one guy will say, I don't have a question. I just want to let you know an old fart's listening to you too. And that's like one time out of several hundred. But the data and the research and podcasting, so these millennials, they're different in the fact that the podcast is a multitasking. So it's 85% of it is in their hour commute to work, or they're on the treadmill, the stationary bike, or whatever. So here's what they say about CAD/CAM. This is their thought. 2 months ago, the United States just graduated 6,000 dental students, and they averaged $350,000 in debt. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, if I buy a CAD/CAM, a CBCT, and a BioLace, I just bought 3 things, and I'm in twice as much debt. Mm-hmm. So talk to her. That's what she's saying.
So nobody's telling you to go buy and spend another $300,000-$400,000 straight out of school. I think that's not the most financially prudent move. But I think what you have to do is you have to look at and you have to invest and do long-term planning. One of the things, so I went from being in private practice full-time, practice in LA, to now I practice part-time, but in a more of an educational setting, but also surrounded by some very, very smart business people, okay? And that's rubbed off on me quite a bit. And one of the things that I've learned is the importance of strategic planning, okay? Back in the day, private practice, we would have consultants, they would say, well, you guys doing your weekly huddles? And I would say, well, we don't have time for weekly huddles. Who's got 20 minutes to meet with the staff because we're busy with patients? Well, no, let's slow down. Let's do some weekly huddles. We have 150 employees now at Spear and CEREC Doctors. When I joined, there was like 5 or 6. I was one of the first people there. So 150. So guess what we do at least once a month? Half day, the entire company shuts down. We go in our auditorium and we do strategic planning. Okay, the whole company. So here's where we are. Here's our goals. Here's our courses that are coming up. Here's the courses that we're planning. Here's the stuff that we're going to do on our website. So that everybody in the company knows. Every week we do a huddle in our cafeteria for 15 minutes. Here's kind of the stuff going on in the week. So we do strategic planning. So someone coming out of school, you can't look and say, oh, I got to go buy this, I got to go buy this, I got to buy this. That's ludicrous. What's your long-term strategic plan?
Ludacris was the best rapper.
Yeah.
Out there. And to throw how'd you bring Ludacris into this?
Listen, you're just trying to connect with these young millennials by letting them know who Ludacris is. Come on now.
Ludacris is old as me. But
so you have to look at strategic planning. Okay. So where do you want to be in 5 years and what's your plan? So let's take each one of these things because I've owned them all: BioLace, Cone Beam, and CAD-CAM. CAD-CAM is the easy one. CAD-CAM, you're not writing a check for 110, 120, whatever the cost. I think it's 130,000 with taxes and all in and stuff. Nobody's saying, hey, you want a CEREC? Write me a check for 130,000. You're making your monthly payments, and the monthly payments are $2,000 to $3,000 a month, depending on what you get, bells and whistles and stuff. Call it $2,500. Okay. Now, if you're in your office and you're working and you're doing cases that your lab is charging you more than $2,500 a month, well, guess what? There is no additional expense for you to own a CAD-CAM system, right? If I'm spending, I'll have to give you my example. In my office, in my practice, when I got the CEREC, my lab bill was between $5,000 and $7,000 every single month back in 2003.
How many flippers was that?
But of that 5, that's a good point. You have to look at what can I do with CEREC. Back then it was inlays, onlays, crowns, and veneers. Today it's inlays, onlays, crowns, veneers, bridges, like a full contour 3-unit bridge with zirconia. What would you pay the lab for that, Howard? Posterior full contour zirconia bridge, which I think is pretty much the standard now, right?
140 unit.
So $400, $420. The block to mill that out of CEREC now is $36. Okay, so instead of a $420 lab bill, you have a $36 block. Okay, so you have to look at what's my lab bill? What can I do with CEREC? And today it's a lot more. We do all of our implant restorations with the CEREC, screw retained, custom cement retained, also custom healing abutments. All that's done chairside, which I don't have a lab bill for. So if I can replace my lab bill with my CEREC payment, there's no cost to me, which means I've got to have a normal, healthy practice. Okay, so that's the CEREC. That's a no-brainer when you're doing enough dentistry. Okay, now, with regards to the cone beam, that's a...
Can I sum up one thing? So basically what he's trying to tell you is the accountant gives you 3 numbers. When you say something costs $130,000, that's a balance sheet number. Your P&L, your assets equal or balance with what you owe, your liability plus your equity. So what Samir is saying is $130,000, that's a balance sheet number. But on a cash flow number, you have cash coming in, cash going out. So if you already have a business and you already have $2,500 cash going out, then a balance sheet number doesn't matter. If you could switch, so basically you're just saying that it's a zero cost because you go from paying $2,500 to the lab to $2,500 to your CAD-CAM.
Yeah, and that's where you have to do the math. Like, does it make sense? Am I doing enough dentistry to justify that fixed expense now? Because the lab is variable.
How many? What would the average practice that adopts a CEREC machine and the CEREC monthly payment? Is it usually over 5 years, 6 years? What is?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you finance, but call it 5 years.
Okay, 60 months. So the average, let's say the average payment was $2,500 for 60 months. Mm-hmm. How many units is the average dentist doing where it starts to make sense?
Okay, so I relate to when I got it. 2003, my lab bill was between $175 and $225 for the case that I was doing with CEREC. So on average, call it $200. My machine payment every month was $2,000. If I'm doing 10 units a month, it's a no-brainer. I was doing more than 10 units a month, so I was actually saving money. Having said that, what happened with lab fees over the years since 2003 to 2000 now? Nobody's paying $200 a unit.
Right, they've gone down.
They've gone down $90, right? $95, somewhere in that range. So So for me to justify the same expense, I would have to be doing 20 units a month. Okay. So at that point, you start saying, well, you know what? Can I justify it? I don't know. If I could just do crowns, that'd be a different thing. Having said that, all of my Invisalign and ClearCorrect impressions done digitally. There's a cost to PVS that I don't have to pay. Implant, screw retained restoration is $160. That's the abutment and the crown with CEREC. Okay. Cement retained restoration is $180 roughly. That's the abutment, your crown that goes on top, and your titanium base that goes into the implant. 3-unit bridge, as I mentioned, instead of a $400 lab fee, it's a $30 block fee. Crowns, inlays, veneers, all of that stuff. So you can't just look at it and say, you know what kind of crowns I'm doing. It is a completely different beast today in 2016 in the capabilities of the machine and what I can do with it compared to years ago. So you've got to look at those different procedures. I would argue that today, 100% of the posterior units can be done chairside. I would say 90% of your anterior units can be done chairside. I would say 100% of your implants, 100% of your, well, not 100% of your bridges, up to 3 units can be done chairside. So the expense thing, it's, to me, if you have a normal average practice, and if you look at the numbers like you're talking about, P&L, cash flow, and not as an emotional dentist, oh my God, I just spent $130,000. It's not. It's very doable if the doctor is wanting to go that route. I'm not saying this is everybody has to go that CAD/CAM route. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you want to incorporate it, do some basic math and figure it out for yourself.
And I also want to say, a lot of the young kids say, okay, you two are lucky. You guys graduated in the golden era. It was indemnity insurance. You just submitted Delta your fee, and they just paid 1%.
Sure.
No matter what you sent in, they just paid 100% clean exam x-rays, 80% fillings, root canals, 50% crowns. Now America is 82% of a PPO practice. Mm-hmm. And this is the first thing she's going to ask herself, but I'm in Salina, Kansas, and we take all these PPOs. Mm-hmm. Do you think does that change any of your thinking?
No, because
what are your thoughts on that?
It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. You still have to look at what are the procedures am I doing? Can I do them chairside? You've always preached the mantra, and I've learned from you, cheaper, faster, better. Can I do those procedures cheaper, faster, better? Cheaper, depending on your volume, yes, for sure. Faster, no, 100%, no doubt. Better, I'm not going to get into the whole CEREC is better or lab is better. I think both will give you a good quality result. It just depends on the clinician. So
for me, I thought for me, how I thought it increased quality is in my journey of 30 years, the things that increased the quality for me the most was going from naked eye to loops, magnification.
Totally agree. First
time I scanned that prep, I sent it to Samir, and he's like, was this from Stevie Wonder? Or was this from Ray? Was Stevie Wonder, or what was the other guy's name?
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
I mean, when you saw your prep 40 times bigger, you're like, holy crap. Yeah. I mean, and I think, the thing about golf and basketball is when you go swing a wood, you see that you're not Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you shoot a basket, you see that you're not Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But when you're prepping teeth and doing root canals, if you don't see, you didn't see that you missed a shot. Same thing with endo. You talk to any endodontist in the world, and the microscopes are using like Global out of St. Louis or Zeiss. They're only turning them up 6 to 8 times. They're not using them full bore. But at 6 to 8 times, you look down that canal and thought, God, I left a peanut butter and jelly sandwich down that canal. So the magnification, whether it's eyes,
100%.
Scanning. So I would say that. And then when you take a traditional old world Dentsply, York, Pennsylvania, polyvinyl siloxane, you're back there with your loops, you're shining
you don't even know what you're looking at.
You can't really even see. And then what we did to correct that back in the day was then we get a little light microscope lens thing, a little better, but nothing compares to scanning and seeing that baby this big, and you're like, holy.
Well,
have you ever scanned a prep and not gone back and touched it?
I mean, we do it routinely. Like, you'll pick up stuff. With the CEREC OmniCam, one of the things we teach, there's what's called a 2D mode. It's like an intraoral camera. So I tell everybody, before you start scanning, turn on that 2D mode. It's just a click of a button. Look at your prep, and it blows it up. get that magnified view, make any modifications first. You don't want to find out, down the road that the restoration didn't fit after you've milled it, and then you go back and say, oh, my prep sucks. Figure it out on the front end.
Okay, what would you say to a 25-year-old girl who's saying, I don't need loops because I ain't 54 and fat like Howard. I'm only 25. I'm still rocking it.
You need loops. I cannot practice without loops. I would encourage you to get magnification.
You're getting to be an old man too, buddy.
So I turned 45 this month, and went to the eye doctor, and she said, yeah, your eyes are getting bad. I think you need bifocals. And I'm like, I'm not effing getting bifocals. She says, no, listen, you have this issue where, because now I'm at the age now, so I wear contacts and eyeglasses, and when I read, I do this. Right, so she's like, "Yeah, you need bifocals." I gave her the finger and walked out. I said, "I'm never going to her again. I'm not wearing bifocals."
You know when I first realized I needed bifocals, Ryan? When I couldn't read my ED prescription. That's when I knew. I'm just kidding.
Known him for close to 20 years, and
this is Dentistry Uncensored. Okay, so let's go to. So now before I rudely interrupt you were starting to go from
talk about ED.
You were talking about CBCT.
CBCT. Okay. So CBCT is a different thing. So you're going to need some sort of X-rays in the office, and it's not the same. Same discussion that I already have a lab fee, so I can just replace that with cone beam. Well, you can't just replace a $10,000 standard 2D X-ray with a $100,000 plus cone beam X-ray. But I tell you, that's something that people are going to eventually buy because it just gives you so much more diagnostic capabilities. We now are working on a project at CEREC Doctors where instead of just taking, so I've got a patient, 35-year-old. We're suspecting some airway issues. He's flying in from out of town. He's a rep for one of the companies, so he's going to get some treatment done. He's 35 years old. He's worn his upper centrals down to 6 millimeters, just bruxism everywhere. So we're going to restore him with the CEREC. Okay, it's going to be a fully digital case. Now, where does the CBCT play? With the CBCT, likely he has airway. Lots of research coming out. You were talking about sleep apnea. If there's an airway issue, it's going to contribute to some grinding, some bruxism. So we're going to address that. Okay. When I say we have a team that we're going to work on him. I'm going to restore his whole mouth with CEREC. It's going to be all digital. Now, with the CEREC, I've got a virtual articulator. I can actually mount his models virtually on the articulator, but how do I set the condylar inclination, all that stuff that the millennials learned in dental school? I'm going to take a cone beam scan. And from that cone beam scan, I'm going to get his readings of his condyles, his inclination, all the different angles. I'm going to program into that CEREC. So when I do his restorations, it's done for him anatomically. That's one aspect of the cone beam. The bigger aspect, it's the integration of the CEREC and the cone beam for implantology. So if you're wanting to maybe not even place implants, even if you restore implants, I was trained in my residency and I did a bunch of implants. I don't do as many now just because I'm one of those guys that, I'm not doing enough to say, I'm going to do implants regularly, but I work with surgeons and I work with a team and I do all the restorations. But I do all of the treatment planning. I'm the quarterback. I'm the one that determines where that implant's going to go because at the end of the day, it's up to me to make sure restoratively that case is restored properly. So that implant has to go in the right spot. And that's where the cone beam really comes into play. We talked about seamless and integration. If I can do...
Zach, you remember Samir?
Yeah. How are you? Good to see you. You remember, I knew these boys when they were like this.
Now he's 21.
Crazy.
So, okay, I'm sorry.
So the planning, right? If I can plan more implants confidently, and then I get to restore those implants, replace those implants, then the cost of the CBCT, again, it's not as big of a hit. So I'm not saying go rush out and buy one, but if your long-term planning tells you that, hey, I want to do more implant, I want to have a more focused implant, then you've got to see how you're going to get to point A to point B. And if the first couple of months you get that cone beam, it's going to be a little bit lean, well, you have to budget that out. I was at a lecture talking about these two technologies at CEREC in Dentsply Sirona. It was a good meeting. They had Orlando, a good time in Orlando last month. And one of the doctors said, hey, I want to buy a CEREC. He was talking to me, but I just started a scratch start. Would you recommend that I go ahead and get it now, even though I don't have the patient flow, or should I wait? I said, well, that really depends, and there's two ways to answer this. One is the safest thing to do is wait. Wait till you build up the volume and until you're doing enough cases, then you're just replacing a lap fee with your CAD cam. I said, but if you're set on that this is the technology and you believe in the future and you want to have this, well, there's another way to look at it. Are you starting a practice, and are you building a practice, and are you planning for success? Meaning, in 6 months to a year, do you expect your patient volume, your patient flow, your revenues to exceed, what you're doing right now, which is nothing? Well, yeah, of course I'm going to succeed. I've got a marketing plan. I've got ways to get new patients in. Well, then why not incorporate the CAD cam now, okay? Yes, there's a cost, and yes, you can't offset that cost because there's no lab fee, but build that into your projection. You talked about balance sheet and cash flow. You have a projection for the next 12 months, for the first 3 or 4 months while you're building up your patient flow. You're going to have an outgo of the $2,500 for the CAD cam. But as long as you know that's there, you can plan for it. You can do it with your line of credit, you can do it with your business loan, you can do it with your savings. However you're going to fund your practice, you can plan for that. And what the advantage of doing that is that you have the opportunity that when things are slow, that you can really take your time and learn the technology. Patient comes in and needs a crown, well, you've got all day to do a crown, and you'll get very good at doing that crown. So by the time your patient flow increases, you're up and running with your CAD cam.
So you said that CAD cam was $2,500 a month payment for 60 months on average.
On average.
What's the CBCT? Is that
it's about the same?
It's about the same. Is that the Galileos is the main?
Yeah, they have different versions of the Galileos. They have the XG3D. That's about
the what?
It's called the XG3D.
XG3D.
XG3D. They have the SL. And then they have the comfort. The main difference is the field of view. The XG3D, you see the upper and lower jaw. The SL, you see a little bit more in the sinuses. The comfort, you see the whole head. So an orthodontist would buy the comfort because they need to do the cephalometric tracing and stuff. And endodontist.
So the comfort's the biggest view.
Comfort's the biggest one.
And what's the smallest view?
The XG3D. I believe it's an 8x8, 11x11 field of view, centimeters, and then 13x13. 13x13.
Yeah. I would say the first upgrade I did on my Pano. This is how old I am. Was the one that had the R on one side and the L on the other. I thought that was the greatest advancement in all oral radiology. Now it's 3D. I would say of everything I've seen in 30 years, the least buyer's remorse of anything I've ever seen was the CBCT.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you a name of 100 people that give their laser back or their microabrasion or every doctor has a museum in his back lab of 5 things.
Doesn't want to see more and diagnose more.
I mean, do you know anybody that wants to be blind?
Yeah.
And what I've noticed on the CBCT, in every endodontist, the people coming in for a retreat and they're seeing what a root canal looks fine, then they see either a miscanal or a draining in the sinus, or and then there's also a lot of people showing that you actually do 5% more like endo because you see an asymptomatic periapical radiolucency that wouldn't show up on a film until it was 3 to 5 millimeters, but you're seeing them at 1 millimeters. Yeah. And you're like, wow, that mesiobuccal tooth on number 3 is dead. Right. So that's what prompted you to get the pulp tester. Thing's dead as a door now.
Well, you see more and you diagnose more. The difference between a successful clinician. Okay, let's take on one extreme. Frank Spear. Everybody knows Frank. Probably one of the greatest clinicians. I've had the opportunity to really get to know him and learn from him. And I sit through all his lectures, and I'm the most fortunate guy in the world because last year I did like 1,000 or 1,500 hours of CE because I'm sitting in all the different lectures with Frank and Greg Kinzer and Bob Winter and all these gurus out there who are just so knowledgeable, and I learn from them. And so what's the difference between why Frank Spear has a hugely successful practice and busy from day one doing quadrants and upper arches and full mouths versus the struggling dentist who says, you know what, I just did 3 fillings today and I don't have enough patient flow. Frank sees more. Frank sees a patient, says you've got wear, you've got issues, you've got airway. This is how we can correct it, and he diagnoses it. The other guy says, well, you got a chipped tooth, let's watch it. It's not that bad. There's no right or wrong in terms of treatment. It's just what kind of practice do you want? If you want to be busy and you want to do more, then learn how to, take care of patients well. And with regards to these, the cone beam and CAD-CAM, Howard, I don't want to come across to the viewers here or the readers or listeners. What are we calling them? The viewers or the listeners?
It's tough because like some of these shows, like on Facebook, have 33,000 views. On YouTube, might have 8,000 views.
Yep.
And then you might have that on. So it's who.
So anyways, to the audience,
Ryan and I have talked about that all the time.
Yeah.
Is there more viewers or listeners?
So I don't want to give the impression that go out, doesn't matter what kind of practice you have, just go buy this stuff and all of your issues will be magically cured. That's not, please don't misunderstand that. What I'm saying is that if this technology interests you, if you feel that this is the future and you want to get it into your practice, then be smart about integrating it and don't just look at the money aspect, plan it out. Do your strategic planning. As I was talking about what we do, our strategic planning. Do you know that we already have our plans at our center for 2018? Like what we want to do and where we want to go, how many courses we want to do, what are we going to do on the website? All of that is baked. And it's because of the strategic planning, so there's no surprises. We're working now on stuff that's going to come out at the end of next year. So you have to have that vision in your small business, in your dental office as well. What is the CE that you're going to take next year so that you can offer another aspect of care to your practice? How are you going to streamline your office so that you are more efficient? What business tools are you going to offer? So it's all about vision and strategic planning.
I want to say a couple things. He said that I'm just afraid that you might not have caught. One thing that I've noticed about Harvard Business Review always has this study. I've mentioned it several times. Everybody's like, what is leadership? And Hollywood tries to make it to be some handsome guy with a hot babe and a Ferrari and blah blah blah. But like, if I asked you, in my lifetime, only a few companies have grown their stock 30,000%. One of them's obviously Walgreens. Mm-hmm. Name the CEO of Walgreens.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
He's just an operator.
Yeah.
He's an operator. He's not some. But the one thing that Harvard Business Review said, they said, well, what is the difference in the top 10% performing CEOs and the bottom 10%? And every time they've done the study, they only come out one word: humility, humble. Humble CEOs, they listen to their employees, they listen to their customers, they listen to everybody. Just the fact that the great ones like Samir, who in my opinion has got to be one of the greatest. No, I'm serious. You're humble. You've gone to every course. You'll listen to anybody, a student, a teacher, Frank. There are other gurus out there who have never gone to another person's course in their entire lifetime with one competing opinion. And if one guy competed with his opinion and questioned one thing, they have a complete mental breakdown.
Yeah.
You're a humble guy. But the other thing he said is this. Here's the main takeaway. What he just said is that the guys like Frank do a complete exam. And then you start your office and you do a new patient cleaning. The patient, I just want my teeth cleaned. So you rush them in, you rush some x-rays, you rush the cleaning, and then the exams at the end with the next floor. In 3 seconds, you say you look good and you're gone. Can you talk about Can you talk about a new patient cleaning with a 2-minute exam versus a Frank Spear exam?
Yeah. So one of the workshops that Frank teaches is called facially generated treatment planning, and it's essentially what it sounds like. You plan out the patient's treatment based on the facial aesthetics. So what does that involve? That involves photos, it involves study models, that involves x-rays, that involves some diagnosis. Now, is that appropriate for every single patient? No, but if you want to practice that you want to do more of that kind of stuff, then you've got to take the time to do a proper exam. If you're just going to rush through, well, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the practice that you're going to have. So I think to kind of go even deeper with what you're saying, Howard, I think you guys, the millennials, you need to have a vision. What kind of practice do you want? Is it going to be, hey, I'm good with running 4 chairs, getting in and out quickly because I've got a massive volume of patients. That's what makes me happy. Great. Then work your way towards that. If your vision of a practice, you know what? I would want to see 1 patient in the morning and 1 patient in the afternoon, do a comprehensive case, then work your way towards that. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong, because we both know successful people that do that well. I've chosen the path that I don't want to be a volume guy. That doesn't make me better or worse. That's just what I enjoy.
Different markets.
It's just a different market. But what I will tell you is in the path that I've taken, I will do everything to maintain that path. Like I'm not gonna go down that path and when someone calls and says, hey, can I just have a cleaning? Sure, come on in. No, we're not the right place for you to come. Here's 10 other dentists that can see you. That's not what I do. So whatever vision you choose, whatever path you choose, focus on that path. Go down that path. You had a vision for Dental Town, right? You had a vision for Dental Town that you wanted a place where people can come and chat and talk, and it was going to be a community. And you did everything in your power to push that vision. You didn't, and maybe people don't know, 15 years ago, my good friend T-Bone and I came to Howard and said, hey, we've got this community. We want to do a meeting called the Townie Meeting, right?
That's right.
And Howard said, well, you know what? We're focused on our website. I don't have time to do the meeting. You guys do it. You were very focused, and that's an example of this. You didn't let anything distract you from your vision of creating a great website, right? Nothing. You let two young yahoos run the Townie Meeting for 10 years, and then when it was ready, then you said, okay, this now fits within our vision, and then now Dental Town runs Townie Meeting. So that's the kind of focus that I'm talking about, is you can't be all over the place. You cannot, I want to have 50 new patients a month, but then do 20 full mouth rehabs. That doesn't make sense. How are you going to take care of those 50 new patients and those rehabs? You've got to figure out what kind of practice you want. Where's your vision? Where's your 5-year plan? I already know where I'm going to be in 5 years. I have it written down on my bathroom mirror in a little piece of paper, and every month that changes. But I have a vision, right? And so that's what I would encourage you guys to do, is have a vision. Where do you want to be later on in your life? You're going to go through struggles when you get out of school. You're going to have debt. You're going to have to try to figure out what it is to navigate the dental minefield. All of that is temporary. Put that aside. You're going to get through that. You have to figure out once you get through that, what is it that you want to do with your practice?
And I'll tell you this from 30 years, and Samir and I have lectured we've lectured in damn near any town that's got 100,000 people.
Pretty much.
We've been there 10 times each. And I'll tell you this, is in my opinion, and a lot of other people that my homies that have been in it this long, that America is half wants volume, they shop on price, and half wants value. And what's confusing of that is a lot of times you'll see a rich person, he doesn't give a crap. He's not going to spend a dime on his teeth. And you'll meet a poor person who, you're not touching me. I don't trust you. Yeah. I want this done right. Because dentistry, unlike physicians, 80% of physicians just write prescriptions and read tests and blood tests. Dentists are 100% surgeons. We're all hands-on. You're leaning them back. You're touching them. You're in their mouth. Half of America won't let anybody touch their mouth. Yeah. The other half will go wherever the insurance company tells them to, and they don't want to pay anything out of pocket. And it's a big country. It's 330 million. But I'll tell you what, half want value in not just Scottsdale, but Salina, Kansas, and Edmond, Oklahoma. Absolutely. And those, I mean, you go to the smallest farm town. Who was that amazing dentist in that real small town in... where was it outside?
I mean, there's so many amazing dentists in
Earl East Step. Earl East Step. I mean, I know some of the most magnificent practices in rural America in a town of 2,500.
Yeah, the biggest mistake you can do is what I did was set up in the shop in the middle of the San Fernando Valley in my building, we had 14 dentists just in my building. Probably in a 1 mile radius, there's like 150 dentists. But that's where everybody wants to go. I want to be in the middle of Scottsdale. I want to be in downtown New York. Go out. Find your niche.
I only got you for 2 more minutes, and I want to switch to ortho. A lot of people are wondering if I give up Dentsply polyvinyl siloxane and I start to go to digital impressions. Is this single tooth? Is this full arch? If it's full arch, is this connected to clear aligners?
I'll make it very simple because I know we're short on time. My standard protocol on every single new patient today is I don't take regular physical study models. I take a full arch upper and lower scan. That's about 4.5 minutes for me. And from that full arch scan, I can get study models printed if I need them, or I can send them to any laboratory, Invisalign, ClearCorrect, Great Lakes Ortho, Space Maintainer, any laboratory. They can now receive those scans and make an aligner, retainer, appliance, partial, whatever you want. So A couple of years ago, people were saying, "Oh, the end of PVS, the end of PVS." And I was like, come on, that's not going to happen. Today, yeah, we're getting close.
But tell him the whole story. Tell him why you got rid of using stone. His wife said, if I ever see you get stoned again, that's it. That's it. So he had to go to He had to go to oral scanning impressions.
20 years I've known this guy. The jokes have not gotten any better. They just haven't.
But I want to say that also the other guy who started that townie meeting, T-Bone.
Good buddy of mine.
Both of you guys are
he's such a good guy.
Both of you guys have put the world on fire. All things digital. I mean, both of you guys. Yeah. I can remember you guys came to me and wanted to do that, and you're right. That was a good example. You know, you can't do three things. If you're gonna do three things and get a C on each one,
yeah, why do it?
Why don't you just get an A on one and give up? And when you came to me, I was trying to get a website.
Yeah,
I was raising 4 boys.
Yeah.
I had a dental practice. It's like, no,
I don't want.
I can't do that. And thank you for just making that. I call it the most special meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's special in the fact that everybody that comes there,
they have a great time.
They know each other. You know, when I go to a meeting, you know, there might be 30,000 people at CDA.
Yeah.
But you might not know anybody. But when you go to Townie Me, you know everyone, and that was your vision, your idea.
Well, I'm gonna say one thing. That was T-Bone and I vision, and he and I, Tarun and I, worked together for 10 years, and you know we obviously aren't in the same business anymore, but just a true partner, true friend. Just props to him. He's just been a great friend over these years.
And his wife, Mona and Mina, right?
Mona and Mina.
You both picked a woman that started with M, right? Was it an
Mona
M&M factory? Did you meet at an M&M bar? Yeah, Mona and Mina are two of the classiest women I've ever met in all of dentistry.
We're very lucky men.
And that's why, one of the reasons you guys are so successful. I mean, if you ask me why is Gordon Christian on top, I'd say it's Rella. And if you ask me why you and T-Bone are so successful, I'd say Mina and Mona had a huge part of that.
I don't disagree.
But you started another business. You started CEREC Doctors. Talk about that. What year did you start
that? So
that
started in 2006.
2006.
Started in 2006. We had an agreement with Patterson that essentially every single CEREC machine that was going to be sold in the U.S., Patterson and Sirona, they would pay for the first year membership of that website. And through that website, I've had the opportunity to train more people on CEREC than really anybody in the world. Last year we had...
Digitally or in the classroom? Or both?
Both. Well, last year we had 2,000 dentists come for CEREC workshops in Scottsdale. Just
2,000 dentists.
Yeah, now some of those are, you know, they come for the workshop and then they go to the next level. But 2,000 seats.
You would have had twice that many if you had had it in Phoenix.
Probably at your house. We're going to do a party at your house. So, and then that's just grown crazy.
So is CEREC Doctor something you join after you buy the CAD cam? What if someone says, well,
you can join at any point.
So how much is it to join?
There's a free part, and then we have different levels of membership. So essentially...
How much is the free part?
The free part is free.
And then
it's great for guys like me, free.
And then what's free? And then
so I'll give you the quick commercial there. So we've got the free part. You get the discussion boards, and you can talk about CEREC. It's strictly focused, nothing but CEREC and the technology around the CEREC. So cone beam and CEREC. There's $1,000 a year membership. We make every time there's a new software update out on all of the cone beam software from Sirona and the CEREC software. We upload that software. We have troubleshooting cases. So if you had a case that was giving you trouble, like you sent me that case, right? Mm. You could upload it to the website. We'll design it for you. So that's $1,000 a year. We have a membership that's $3,000 a year. But what you get with that is you get CEREC Doctors. You get 10 of your team members. All of them watch videos. We do webinars every single month. We have a whole marketing package. You get Spear education online, and you choose a seminar on campus. That's actually been our most popular one. So you get all that for $3,000. And so those are the main memberships that we have on the website. And people, choose. We've got a very high percentage of people that every year they renew because they get the ability to come on campus. They put their team, and it's very focused to the CEREC technology and the cone beam technology from Sirona. We teach you how to do inlays, onlays, crowns, veneers, bridges, implants, and also the treatment planning aspect that I mentioned about doing implants. Lots of discussions on that using guided surgery and the CEREC protocol. So.
And what if she's saying, I don't want to buy one. I just want to I want to come to Scottsdale for an intro course. What would be the best?
So we do a course.
I want to learn more.
Go to CERECaccept.com. The Accept course is a course for non-owners, and it's a 2-day training course. Having been an owner and spending all the time on Dental Town, people always say, well, I wish I could try it before I buy it. Well, you can. You bring your cases from home, so your models that you had from home, you bring them to the class. We actually design the cases on your preparations, and you learn how to make a CEREC restoration.
And how often is that course given?
It's about once a month.
Once a month, CEREC Accept?
Yeah, go to CEREC Accept.
course? And how much is that course?
$0.
Really? It's a free course?
Yeah, because Patterson and Sorna, they found it's the most effective way that they can show doctors the technology. So they pay for your tuition, and there's no cost. And it's been hugely popular, and people get to go through the course and learn about the technology without the sales rep kind of pushing them. It's just us talking, and we have clinicians there, users that help you and train you, and you decide if it works for you or not. Very simple.
All right, we're over time. Last question. How old are those 2 girls now?
My 2 girls are 16 and 14. Their older one's driving. It's the worst day of my life. But so far.
I'll tell you what.
They're good girls.
I thought all my 4 boys could have been named Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John until they got their first car.
Yes.
As soon as they got their car keys, that's when the trouble began.
I'm a lucky guy. They're such good girls, and I'm so blessed. And I know we're finishing, but I'm gonna personal thanks to Howard, because he saw something in me 15, 20 years ago, and you gave me the opportunity to kind of excel and just run with what I was gonna do. And I want to thank you for that. You'll always have a special place in my heart, Howard.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I love you to death.
Absolutely.
And so CERECdoctors.com, CERECaccept.com.
Yep.
And then what's the website for just Scottsdale Center?
SpearEducation.com. No such thing as Scottsdale Center. It's Spear Education. That was
SpearEducation.com.
Yep.
So those are the 3 websites: SpearEducation.com, CERECdoctors.com.
Yep.
And CERECaccept.com.
CEREC Accept for those that want to investigate the technology. Yep.
Thank you for all that you've done for not only dentistry, but for my practice. By the way, my assistant Jan would marry him in 3 seconds. If he just called her up and said, Jan, will you marry me? She's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. He's come out to our office and helped us many times. Samir, I just think you're the biggest class act.
Thank you so much, Howard.
All right, buddy. Thanks for doing it.